There we go. All right. Welcome back to Archer's World of Literature, everyone. And this is the third episode of The Page Turner. I am incredibly grateful to be joined by Sir Scott, the bald booktuber. How's it going, Scott?
Good. It's a pleasure to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's been a while since I wanted to talk to you. Everyone, if anyone is watching at all, you know the drill. It's sort of just a live stream conversation for an hour or so, and then a little bit of questions in there as well. Yeah, feel free to drop any comments during the live chat, and we'll try and get to them. And yeah, we'll do this together. So first off, I did want to ask is, what are you currently reading?
Yeah, I just finished up The Winter King, book one of Bernard Cornwell's, which I liked a lot. The first 50 to 75 pages was a little rough to get into, but I like the rest of it. And then I'm about halfway into my reread of Game of Thrones.
Yes, okay. You're on that. You're on the reread along, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. So it's been fun to revisit my favorites from the series.
Yeah. So, I was talking to Joanna about that, and I was really wanting to join that, but I had just started because I'm on my first ever read of it.
Yeah,
so
I know.
When I read Storm of Swords, Game of Thrones, Clash. I don't know why I just said it in that order, but my reads of those books last year were my first ever time completing them.
Yeah.
And so I would think when I looked at the schedule and it was all posted with all you guys, doing this read along, I was just like 1 or 2 months ahead. And if I had look, I might be able to join. I might be able to depending on when I'll be able to. Hey, we got Theo's in the chat.
Theo's here. What's up, man?
Theo, can't stay saying hey. Good to see you, man. Thanks for popping in. I really wanted to join along. So, depending on whether I can hold on from Feast for Crows, I might be able to join in for Feast for Crows.
That's the one I'm hosting, so that'd be cool.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, for sure. I might. What month are you guys doing
that? April, I think. I'd have to look. I can't remember if it's April or May off the top of my head, but I think it's April.
Okay. All right. I think my April or May TBR is open, so I might be able to slide that in there. Personally, I'm and I know it's your favorite series, and so you'll be able to sort of justify it or whatever. But I've heard that Feast for Crows is a bit different.
Here's what I think. So Storm of Swords is my favorite book, and I think that is pretty common. Not my favorite Song of Ice and Fire book. It's that too, but it's my favorite book. Period.
Well, okay, big claims.
So I think a lot of people, and I've been reading it for a long time too, but I think a lot of people that had been reading it for a long time, they expected another Storm of Swords, and that's not what Feast for Crows is.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's great. I love it, but it is very, very different. You're not going to have the big crazy moments that you do in Storm of Swords.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't have any very I don't want to spoil anybody, but there's no massive moments like you.
Yeah, massive moments. Storm of Swords is just constant, game-changing things. So
it's more so kind of a study in the aftermath of war and these types of things, and I love it. I know Kyle from Red by Kyle really loves it too. I'm gonna make sure he's on to talk to me about it.
Okay, all right. But I'll keep that in mind. I think I just heard it follows very different characters and introduces new characters.
Yeah, you spend time in Dorne, which I really like Dorne a lot. Yeah. You spend a lot of time on the Iron Isles, getting to know some of those characters. So, and something that a structural change decision that he made that upsets a lot of people is you follow half of the character point of views in Feast for Crows and the other half in Dance with Dragons. And a lot of people are upset. Like, Tyrion's my favorite character in fiction. Yeah. So not having him in Feast for Crows is not great.
Yeah.
But there was enough there that I really liked. I think all of Jaime's stuff in Feast for Crows is incredible.
I like Jaime's
Cersei point of view is amazing. So there's a lot there to like. I think if you just go and do it with an open mind, I think there's a good chance you'll enjoy it.
Yeah,
but
cool.
One thing it's definitely not is Storm of Swords Part 2. That's too high of a bar, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just Storm of Swords Part 2. Game of Thrones and Clash of Kings had its big moments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was, but Storm of Swords, it was just all right, every 100 pages, I'm just going to do this huge thing, massive, massive thing.
Yeah.
The weddings and stuff, and whatever. Just that. I'm not going to say anymore, but
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously they were the main two ones, but it'll be interesting. I think probably a change of pace could be cool, especially if you're seeing them going to different. Because I know it spends a fair bit of time in the Iron Islands.
Mm-hmm.
North and stuff and like Pike is in Pike.
Yep, Pike's in there. Yep.
Yeah, and so I think that might have, and especially with Dawn and all, I think that probably does need a bit of a change of structure. I feel like if you're gonna like have different characters and stuff, maybe it would be like cool to change it all up. So
Yeah, you follow the main point of view from the Iron Isles is Victorian Greyjoy.
Wow. Okay.
Which I think is a pretty cool choice.
Yeah.
And of course, there's some Theon stuff in there as well. So yeah.
This guy, Theon. I don't know how I feel about this guy.
He's a very unique character. That is for certain.
We'll just put it there. Yeah. When are you planning on reading? Are you planning on getting to Enemy of God at all?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna do that in February. So
yeah, cool.
I think for the most part, my spring TBR is sort of set because I'm doing this Song of Ice and Fire reread. I've been reading. I started reading Book of the New Sun. Gene Wolfe. So I actually had Christopher Rocchio on my channel today, and we talked about Shadow of the Torture. Oh, cool. Awesome. So I'll be doing one of those each month, one Song of Ice and Fire each month. I'm taking part in Mike's reread of the Red Rising series because the new book is coming out there. So that's a slot. I'm doing the Warlord Chronicles. That's a slot. And I've also been rereading Realm of the Elderlings. So I need to get to Fool's Errand. So
yeah, you got some big stuff there.
Yeah, I'm pretty much, I can't really add a ton of other things beyond what is already planned out for the next several months.
Yeah, so that's a lot. Do you find yourself, are you the type of person that reads multiple at once, or do you smash through one at a time?
I like to do one per month. I think that's probably my preference. I don't mind doing like a trilogy in a month if I don't have other stuff going on, but I kind of like that to break it up that way. And especially if I'm reading multiple series at once, it's nice to kind of have that next book to look forward to.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I find myself like sometimes, especially with Song of Ice and Fire, I will finish a book and I will want to jump to the next one straight away. When I finished the Game of Thrones, I wanted to pick up Clash of Kings instantly.
Yeah.
But I was like, from my experience as a kid, when I picked up Chamber of Secrets straight after reading Philosopher's Stone, no matter how much I like it, I will stop reading it. I will get burnt out. It will happen. That's just a personal thing. So as much as I want to read just that first chapter of that next book, if I do that and then I keep going with it, I'll put it down for 6 months. I just, it's like, it's just a thing where it's like, I know that will happen. Like unintentionally it will happen. So
I don't think burnout is the biggest issue for me. I like to have a little bit of space in between to kind of gather my thoughts or whatever and kind of think through.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like saying that you didn't enjoy the first book or whatever. It's just like I need a bit of a change of pace, and especially when it comes to like big fantasy books and stuff, especially epic fantasy, where a lot of the time, sometimes the lines can kind of be blurred and sort of there's a lot of similar themes and similar concepts, and so that's why I like to take a break in between. And then when I read, like, a few classics or just general fiction, whatever, in between like a big epic fantasy book or a trilogy. It's given me time to be like away from that medieval world, away from that fantastical world, to come back and be like, for me, like when I started reading Assassin's Apprentice, it was after I'd read Ulysses, I read Haunting of Hill House. Yeah, I read a few of those. And I'd read just a few classics, and then I was like, I need some magic. I really just need some swords, I need some political intrigue, I need some magic. Speaking of political intrigue, I wanna bring this up. The political intrigue in the Farseer trilogy, and I don't know if it's going to be throughout the rest, is like top tier. I did not expect it to be like pretty damn near like Game of Thrones, not like Game of Thrones level with the amount of people involved, but like the amount of secrets and like story twisting is insane.
Yeah, I think in general, there's a lot of crossover between the two fan bases. The reason I started reading Hobb many years ago is because George was such a proponent of her work.
Yeah.
And I'm certain I'm not the only one he turned on to her books. That's one of many. But yeah, I think I mean they're friends in real life. I think probably
that's cool.
I think it's likely that they probably see each other's manuscripts before they're published and stuff. At least in my brain, what happens.
Wow.
So
it'd be cool if maybe like Robin Hobb could maybe push George a little bit to maybe finish a few things. Maybe she'll come up with like the next Realm of the Elderlings book, and it'll be this big, and she'll be like, "Hey George, look at this," and he'll be like, "Oh, I wish I could do that," release a book.
Yeah, she was actually working on some new Realm of the Elderlings stuff right when the pandemic hit, and
oh no,
part of the content had to do with pandemic type stuff. So she
Really?
decided to shelf it and say, I'm not going to write about that.
Whoa, that's really that's like rotten luck. That's really
Yeah. And I don't know where she was going to take it, but it's one of my favorite characters in the entire series, but this character isn't mentioned until the final trilogy. And
okay.
it was going to center around this particular character. So,
Yeah.
who I can't say anything more than that because it's all
No.
spoilery. So,
Yeah. Was it from? Was it someone from? Is it Fits in the Fool? Is that the last trilogy?
yeah, Fits and the Fool is my favorite trilogy.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That I've ever read.
Wow.
And it's definitely my favorite in Realm of the Elderlings, but those lines are pretty close between Fitz and the Fool, Tawny Man, and Live Ship. So
Okay. Yeah.
um,
I was watching because what really got me like wanting to pick it up. I think I might have had it, and then I actually decided to read it. Was obviously when Mike started covering it. And I read it when he was covering Live Ship, and because he was talking very highly of Live Ship. And then I was like, oh, I want to get to Live Ship, so I need to finish. Obviously, I need to start from the start. And I was reading it, and I was enjoying it. And then I found out that he wasn't as big of a fan of a couple of the things in Farseer, and I was like, okay, fair enough. But then he was saying that Live Ship is like the best thing of all time. And then
Live Ship
recently,
very, very good. And I think especially for the right kind of Song of Ice and Fire fan, it's especially good because it's multi-point of view, third person point of view. So
okay.
I love Live Ship. I just completed my reread of that back in December. So
this
is my
I know you love it, but I just, for me, I'm like, I can't see myself like rereading stuff like yet. I don't know. I'm at that point where it's like there's still too much that I want to read, so I just can't see myself doing it. I don't know.
I've always been a big rereader. I don't know what that is. Like I've probably read Song of Ice and Fire 6 or 7 times. At least the first 3 books.
And it's still got no ending.
I'm of the opinion that it's the best thing there is, ending or not. So I'm not the guy that's gonna be upset about whether it gets finished or not. That's just I put that out of my head because I don't have any control over it, and I haven't purchased any of the hypothetical books to this point, so he doesn't owe me anything. So
yeah. I don't know. For me, I'm gonna throw like a bit of a spanner in the works. Right, you're gonna lose it. I didn't mind the ending of the series. Yeah. I was like one of the very rare people. I can see the fire burning in your eyes right now. You're like, how could you say that? No, I didn't mind it. I mean, because I hadn't read the books though, so maybe that would have affected that a lot.
I'm not as it didn't end well. I'll say that, but like it didn't throw me into a rage as some people. Like if I'd had a channel at that time, I wouldn't have been posting rant videos or anything. That just not my thing.
Like, oh, cool. Yeah.
There were a lot of choices that were poor ones by the writing team, but I think we all knew as George got further and further away from the TV program, the quality suffered more and more, and they didn't know what to do. So they did the best they could and got out, and the best they could was not that great. So it is what it is. But season 6 is still my favorite season of television ever. And there's even a lot of people that think season 6 was bad. So,
I know I've heard that. Season 6, I thought that it got, I mean, obviously those first 2 are very, very, very good. Then I think, I don't know, I'm the person who kind of always roots for like a villain. Like I really like the anti-hero kind of story. So whenever I started seeing that, I was like, oh, I'm here for this. Like this. Obviously there were things I didn't like. I mean, the lighting in that final battle, we'll just say that. And then obviously, I mean, the decision to make them like movie length and 6 episodes, I didn't really care for. I think they could have stretched it a lot, but
I mean, there's a lot of things they could have done, but I think the biggest thing was they kind of knew where the story was supposed to end. They knew where they were at, and they didn't really understand how to get from there to there. And none of the character decisions and stuff led to a logical conclusion. I didn't think. So I think that was the biggest trouble. Oh, good. Chad likes it too. Yeah. But I mean, it is what it is. Have you watched House of the Dragon at all?
Yeah. Okay. So the weird thing is, I loved it. I watched. I haven't finished it. Okay. I know. I was watching it every day it came out, and then I watched the first episode where the cast changes, and I still thought it was good. but I think it really threw me off. I don't know, like I don't know what it is. It just threw me off because I really liked those first actresses.
Yeah,
like, I really did. They were amazing, and I have no doubt that it's still amazing. And I've heard it's really really good in the ending. And I keep telling people I'm going to finish it, but I've just decided to. I think the funny thing is, I was talking to a friend about it the other day who loves it, and he was like, "I think you stopped watching it as soon as you started reading Game of Thrones." And I was like, "Yeah, I think you might be right." Because I was watching it and I picked up the book and then I stopped watching the show.
That makes sense. Yeah,
I think I got distracted by the world of Game of Thrones, but I will be getting to it. I will be eventually.
Yeah, we so me and Mike and Madison on Mike's channel did the wrap ups after every episode, and
I watched every episode that I had
seen.
Oh,
awesome! That's cool.
Yeah, I love that.
But that was really enjoyable. Just to have other people to talk to about the series and kind of take questions and stuff live. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that season 2 will get here sooner than later, but I don't think it'll be here until 2024.
I mean, it'll probably be a couple of years at the very, I reckon, a couple of years.
But I think they're already in development on some Dunk and Egg stuff, and I love it.
Oh, cool.
So I'm excited.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I haven't read any, I haven't read Fire and Blood, and I haven't read the Seven Nights of the...
Yeah, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I think it's called. That's the bind up of the 3 novellas. So it's like Hedge Knight. I never remember what the names are, but yeah, it's a bind up, and I love those 3 stories. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna eventually I'm gonna get to them all, but I think I might put Feast for Crows in April or May. So keep me posted with that.
Yeah, for sure, we'll do.
I did want to ask: is this video? Because I don't know if anyone who's watching or some people know or not. Scott is crazy and is doing a video every single day for his.
That's true.
Work. Insane. I couldn't do it. Is this counting as one of your videos for your 31 videos?
I already did my video for today. I had Rockio on the channel.
Oh, Rockio. I get thrown off because I just like woke up a few hours ago. So for me, because like all your videos and stuff, like I said, when I joined the Sunday with Scott, when I joined that like last week, I said that it was like 4 a.m. and for whatever reason, I just hadn't slept and I was watching that. But you know, most nights when I'm getting like an okay sleep schedule, like I miss those videos, so I got to watch the replay the next day. So
I appreciate it. I think one thing I've learned is that I'll never do this again. This is not something I would commit to ever again, but it's been fun. So I've been off work since Christmas, basically. And I go back whatever February 1st is next week or whatever that is, a couple weeks out, I don't know. But that's when I go back, like middle of the week. So I have some free time, so I decided I was gonna, like, I put a poll out, should I do this? And enough people said yes that I'm like,
I voted yes, so you can blame me.
No, there's nobody to blame. It's fun. I did almost miss a day the other day. So I went to this thrift book store that I like here in Phoenix called Bookman's, and they take trade-ins and stuff for books and different media. And I was going to do some filming just of the store and of the selection process and whatever. Yeah. And the filming it didn't come out good at all. So I ended up just doing a short of the books that I bought, which was lame, but that was my video that day. So whatever. Okay,
no, short counts. You're probably really looking forward to going back to work now.
It's funny. My boss hit me up, and I went out to lunch with my boss and a couple of my coworkers Friday, I guess, yesterday, I guess it was. And when he hit me up on Tuesday, he's like, I don't even know if you want to hear from me or whatnot, but you want to, I'm like, you're paying, right? All right. Well, so that's all right. My boss is awesome. So it was good.
Yeah. We've got Jane here saying she's going to miss you.
Oh, Jane's the best.
Yeah. Going to miss them.
Also from Australia, if you didn't know that. Jane is the best.
Jane, you from Australia?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen you popping up in some videos. That's awesome. Wow. Okay, cool. Nice to meet you, fellow Aussie.
She's a fellow mod with me over at Mike's server. She is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Cool. Awesome. Fellow Aussie. So yeah, one of the other questions I did write down was, how's that going? The 31 videos, 31 days. How, obviously, you probably, like, when you started it, you were like, I've got 5, 10 ideas, like, I'm going to do this and stuff. Are you finding yourself like struggling, like, as it gets later, or?
I think I was struggling in the first week to come up with ideas. So like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Yeah. Like the other day I made like a tour of my hats. Like I literally scraping the bottom of the barrel here, but no, I there's more stuff I want to be doing. I need to do a spoiler-free video of Shadow of the Torturer. That needs to get done. Yeah. Every time I've sat down and transcript that out, it hurts my brain. So I need to get that done. But I'll be doing a live tomorrow morning, like I have been doing on Sundays, just to check in with everybody and say hey.
If I'm awake, I'll be there. If I'm awake, I'll be there.
I appreciate. It'll probably be. It'll be like 5 a.m. or something crazy. For you,
yeah. Well, I think last time, I think I've got the notification on my YouTube at the moment. I think it said 3 a.m. for me.
Well, please don't plan around it. You need to sleep and have a normal life. That's not.
Actually, no, I do have to work tomorrow. I do have to work. I just realized I'm working tomorrow, so I'll watch the replay.
I appreciate it. I work on Sundays too, so when I go back, I'll have to decide if I'm going to keep that up or not. But they're fun. I like hanging out with people and having
I love it. Yeah,
stuff. So
when I was watching yours, I was like, I reckon I could see myself doing something like this, where it's kind of like you can get a real core connection with a central group of your followers. So I really think it's cool.
Before I forget, I told my wife that you're from Melbourne, and she made sure to tell me, make sure he knows that in this case, she has been to Melbourne to visit. So it was very important for her for you to
let me know. Okay, cool. All right. Did she enjoy her time? She liked it? Yeah. Did she have any complaints? Was there anything?
Not that I know of. She went long before the two of us met, so it was just a fun trip with her and her mom. So
cool.
They had a good time. I think it's like an 8-hour flight, maybe from where they're at in kind of the Manila area. So
So my it's funny you say that, because my girlfriend's flying to Vietnam today. I think she's on the plane right now, and I think she said it's about 9 hours. Yeah. So that's sort of in the same sort of continental area. Jane is Sydney based. I was actually born in Sydney, so there we go.
Very cool.
I was born New South Wales. I was born in Wyong. I don't know if you know Wyong, Jane. But yeah, I was born in Wyong, and then we moved to Melbourne when I was maybe 3. So I was born there, but I'm not. I wouldn't identify with it. But this is an interesting question from Jane. I was actually about to ask you this. If this is for both of us, I will ask you first. Do you script? Okay. Do you write down your book reviews, or do you dot point, or is it fully how do you do it?
Yeah, I've only done 2 book reviews on my channel, which is an embarrassingly low number. I reviewed Speaks the Nightbird, which is the first book in the Matthew Corbett series by Robert McCammon. That was the first one I did.
Yeah.
And I scripted that out. I had kind of a format that I used. And then I did a book review for The Legend of Blackjack, self-published by A.R. Witham. Which is great also. So I scripted both out. I was starting to script out the Shadow of the Torturer before I continued to see that I was just writing down, man, this guy writes good. It's not riveting stuff. You
can make a short about that. Could be a short man, this guy writes good.
Have you read any Gene Wolfe?
No, I haven't.
Not yet. Okay. So it's interesting. So it's interesting to me. About 2 years ago, I decided I'm going to try and read this because there were some other people that were reading it. And I read the first chapter. I'm like, I am too stupid for this series. I can't. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand. I need a guide to know what I just read. Yeah. And I've been saying this for 2-3 years or whatever. I'm too stupid for this series or whatever. And Rockio just continues to tell me, you just got to read it, man. You'll be fine. It's not that big a deal. So finally I caved and I said, all right, this is the year. It's happening one way or the other. I may be completely lost, but it's going to happen. So it's actually, there's some interesting framing going on, because the idea is that the main character, Severian, writes the Book of the New Sun, and somehow our author in our world, Gene Wolfe, gets a hold of that manuscript that's thousands or millions of years in the future, and has to translate it into present day English. That's the concept. And it's cool because he's such a wordsmith. He has all these unique archaic words that are actual words. You can find them in a dictionary if you look really hard and you have the right dictionary. He didn't invent the words, they exist. Wow. But he uses these really archaic, strange words to fit in with that theme. So it's a really unique narrative device, and I like it. But his prose are gorgeous. It reads so beautifully. And even when I don't know what the hell's going on, it's still a lot of fun to read. So I'm having a good time.
Okay, just read it.
Yeah.
Just read it. Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm not going to lie. That whole idea of translating it. I mean, so the translation, because I've got no idea. This sounds awesome, but I don't know. So is the whole book a translation of that previous document?
Yeah. So the idea is that things have evolved, in this far distant future, to not be super recognizable to what we have today. And a little bit Rockio does that in Sun Eater as well, but the span of time is a lot more in Book of the New Sun. And so the idea is that language has evolved so much, and as language does, that the words they use and even like the animals they have and these kinds of things have evolved to be much different than present day.
Okay.
So like the example Rockio always uses, and it's the example that Wolf uses, is that a horse would be unrecognizable. And in the text, horses have like these claws and stuff. Like it's not anything close to what we would call a horse, but it's the closest thing that Wolf had in his translation.
Yeah,
So
wow.
that's what he calls it. So it's that type of thing. So I could see it annoying some people, but at its base, it's a fairly straightforward story, at least in the first book. So he's a royal torturer. He does something he shouldn't do. He gets exiled, and we follow him through his exile. That's basically the story. So you can read it on kind of a baseline level like that and understand what's going on. But there's also about 4 or 5 other levels you could read it on. There's symbolism. There's a lot of religious subtext. Because he was a big Catholic. So that's sort of, I'm going to talk with Rockio about each book to kind of get as much out of this read as I possibly can. And I'm also watching, I don't know if you know Moid Media Death Review, Media Death Cult, sorry. Great channel. He's a sci-fi guy, and he read through it, and he's been having discussions with this group called Alzamo Soup. It's a couple guys that do a Wolf podcast that are like experts. So I've been watching those as well. So it's the kind of thing that rewards rereads and a lot of close attention. The rereads part, I like. The close attention, I'm not very good at, so I need other people to help me out along the way.
Yeah, cool. All right. I mean, every time I do one of these lives, my TBR gets slowly longer and longer. So that's another issue. But I also work in a library and a bookstore, so it's
I mean that would do it as well for sure.
How many books in the series are there? Like, is it finished?
So Book of the New Sun is split into sort of. Here, let me show you. It's 4 published works and then a 5th one that's kind of a coda, but it's in these bind-ups of 2 apiece. So this is Shadow and Claw, which is Shadow of the Torture is the first book. That's the one I talked to him about today. And then I'll read Claw of the Conciliator in February. And then the other one I have here that I don't have handy is I think that one's called, what is that one called? I guess I can show you. It's Sword and Citadel. And that's, I think, Sword of the Lictor and Citadel of the Autarch, maybe. I don't remember what those are called.
I recognize those sort of 2-in-1 sort of kind of format. I think I've heard someone talk about it. I'm trying to.
And then, so I've been reading them mostly physically along with the audio because the audio is great. I don't know if you do audio, but Jonathan Davis is incredible. He does a lot of Star Wars audio, so I was super familiar with him. And he's perfect for this series. So I've been immersively reading that way. And then I also have an ebook bind up that has the 4 of them together. So I can just sort of, I use that for highlighting and keyword searches and stuff.
Yeah, cool. So do you have like a Kindle or like is it an e-reader or is it
I have like 3. So I use this one a fair amount. This is a Fire tablet. I use a bigger Fire tablet a fair amount, and then I've got a dedicated Paperwhite that's in the bedroom. Usually I read it out if I'm before bed or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
All right, I'm just gonna catch up on some of the questions here. Hello, Archer and Scott. Gonna miss your daily videos, Scott. You got a fan base for these daily videos here.
I didn't realize they were such a hit. You'd never know by the insights, but I appreciate the people that are saying that they're enjoying it. That's good.
That's one of my mates down from he came down. He lives in Western Australia, and he came down
cool.
in Melbourne recently. So glad to see you, Brady. Working at a bookstore and a library, do you get to give gift recommendations? Do you have to?
Mm.
Do you have go-to books to recommend, or does it depend on the person asking what books you recommend? That's a good question. It's really interesting. So library, I pretty much get no recommendations asked. So at the library, it's very like we shelve books, and yes, it's about books, but a lot of it is like computer related because it's like a community space now. So a lot of it's like changing passwords, like helping people print stuff. A lot of the people who are there for books are pretty self-sufficient
Sure.
because they go there a lot of the time. Like sometimes they don't go there a lot. Sorry, a lot of the time they go there without the intention of like getting a specific one. They just go and have a browse. They pick one that looks cool and they take it home because it's not like when it's a bookstore, it's a financial decision. So if they browse, they pick one. It's like I'm spending money on this, so it has to be the one that I want. At the bookstore, I actually only started last week. So I've only worked there for one day yet, but I'm working there casually, like for good now.
Yeah.
And just on that first day, like I had what did I have? No, I didn't have anyone come up to recommendations for me, but I know people who work at the same store, and we have a little lanyard that says that people like, it says like, hey, ask us for recommendations, whatever, and they do. When I have gotten recommendations, like the rare time at the library, I actually find it really difficult. And I don't know if you've had it in real life when people like know you read and they're like, because I mean, even in real life, I've got friends that like the idea of reading or want to read more and stuff, and they're like, oh,
they
like,
want to have read, they don't necessarily want to read. Yeah,
exactly. And they look at like us as their friends, and they're like, oh, what do you recommend, or like, how do I read more books and stuff? And I sort of like go like blank, like I forget that I read. Like I'm like, and then it makes it seem like I don't read, and I seem all stupid. I usually sort of ask them like what kind of stuff they're into. If they say like, like crime or like graphic sort of stuff, I'll recommend some of my like Japanese thrillers or something that I like. Or if they like classics, I usually will just recommend them something that I've read recently. Like I usually, unless it's something that's really stuck in my head, it'll be like based. I usually pull up my Goodreads in front of them because I just forget. And so I was just like, I put up my Goodreads and I'm like, oh, these are the last 5 books I read. One of them was Ulysses. And I was like, yeah, no, you don't want to, might not give you that one yet. Come back to me in like a couple of years. But
that's on my bucket list to read at some point, but I'm not in a hurry.
Brilliant. It's so good. It's one of my favorite books of all time now.
Yeah.
We had, when I was doing this with Joanna last week, we had Matt from Matt on Books, and then we had Alan from Library of Alexandria in the chat. And we talked about Ulysses, and I said to Joanna, I was like, oh, I'd recommend you read it. Like, it's really good and stuff. And then Alan commented, he said, friends don't recommend friends Ulysses.
That sounds like Alan.
Yeah. That does sound like Alan, yeah. But no, I love it. I mean, I don't know, if you can get through, like, some pretty... Have you read any Cormac McCarthy?
I have. I like The Road a lot. And I didn't have a very good time with Blood Meridian. So those are the two that I've read.
I haven't read any, but I've heard that his writing style is experimental in some works.
That's a way to say it, yeah. I'm interested in his 2 newest ones, the kind of companion duology, I guess. Or,
Passenger and...
Yeah, Passenger and Stella I'm interested in that because I've heard that's pretty philosophical and stuff. And I kind of like the navel-gazing stuff. That's all right with me. So so I might check that out. But Blood Meridian, I just found it to be so bleak and hopeless, and like I don't know what I was supposed to take away, but I just felt depressed.
Yeah, okay.
Not a good, like I've read books that are a good kind of depressed, where like, man, I really felt for that character and stuff. This was just awful people doing awful stuff with no redemption.
Yeah, and doesn't that kind of sounds like Joe Abercrombie a little bit?
Except that Abercrombie has humor. So Abercrombie's one of my favorite writers. So clearly he loves Blood Meridian. He's talked about it.
Yeah.
But I leave his books laughing at the gallows humor. There's no humor in Blood Meridian. It's just, and again, Joanna loves Blood Meridian, and many, excuse me.
Yeah.
Many people do. Jimmy from Fantasy Network loves Blood Meridian. So a lot of people do, but just didn't work for me. So
that's fair enough. I mean, that's like I always say, I mean, that's the best thing about this space and this community is like you don't really have to be afraid of saying if you don't like anything or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I find kind of interesting is that books by Cormac McCarthy, Lonesome Dove, some of those kind of Western sort of more intense like literary fiction books, they're becoming really big in the fantasy booktube community at the moment, and I don't know like where it's come from, especially Lonesome Dove. Like that's cowboy.
Well,
book, right?
it's Stephen King's favorite book.
Oh,
It's Brian Lee Durfee's, if not favorite book, it's in his
yeah,
top
okay.
5 somewhere. Everybody that I've talked to who's read it is in love with the book.
Okay.
I will read it at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
It's big. It's very big.
Yeah,
to say the least. I think it probably just like snuck its way in here, I guess, because it's not fantasy at all.
No,
from what I've heard, it's literally just cattle herding, right? Like it's just
yeah. I mean, I don't know a ton about it other than the basic premise and the fact that I'm told the character work in it is next level amazing. So
okay, all right.
That usually is a big enough hook for me. So.
Yeah. I mean, if Stephen King was like influenced by it or likes it, then hey, that's good. All right, loving this chat. Great chat, guys.
Oh,
thank you. That's my grandma. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so she's tuned in.
Super cool.
And then we got Drew, one of my coworkers who mostly reads non-fiction, asked me a fantasy recommendation, and it gave me so much anxiety trying to come up with something. I feel responsible if they like it.
I mean, I don't think you should have anxiety. That's not a big deal. I would still want to know what type of nonfiction they like, though. I think that will influence what to ask them to read. And I think with any kind of recommendation, you just have to have a caveat like, I love this. Maybe you will, maybe you won't, but you're asking me.
Don't hold me accountable. Don't hold me accountable. You can make them sign like a little like form that says,
a waiver.
It will not be my fault. I will not be held accountable. How far into a realm of the Elderlings are you, Archer? I've just finished Royal Assassin. I finished Royal Assassin a couple of days ago, and I've spoken to Scott about it, and it's blown my mind.
Royal Assassin's great.
I am here. I finished Assassin's Apprentice, and I thought it was good. I thought it was a good book. It might have just been because it was like a pretty short and introduced quite a lot of stuff, and I thought it did it quite well. I wasn't like blown away like Game of Thrones level. I just thought it was a pretty good book. Then Royal Assassin was like oh my god. There was parts of me that sort of during it that he doesn't. One thing I found the difference between Royal Assassin and Assassin's Apprentice is in Royal Assassin they don't leave Bucktown all that much.
Yeah, that's true.
They're kind of just there for a lot of it. And it can kind of feel like a little bit repetitive with that, but then it's like the political intrigue is in the background is changing like a lot, very frequently. So that sort of just helped me with it. I did also want to say, poor Fitz, like he can never get a good night's sleep ever.
You haven't begun to see what's going to happen to Fitz.
I've heard because everyone says like crying and all this. Everyone says like
he's been treated well relatively so far.
Oh no! Oh god! Remember that the second last chapter of Royal Assassin? Yeah, okay, I thought that was bad. No, but I mean, like, he can't ever get a good night's sleep. That's like, true. Even when nothing's happening, he goes to bed, and then he's like, oh, I'll shut my eyes. Can't go to sleep. Back up again. I'm going to go to Molly's, see Molly.
He leads a very, very stressful life. That is, that is very correct. With people constantly trying to manipulate and use him in various ways. That is correct.
Yeah. I'm waiting for that to accumulate. I'm waiting for something to snap, or I don't know. I'm excited. I'm reading Lonesome Dove this year to jump on that train as well. Yeah, I'm tempted. If it wasn't so big, I don't know. But I've been planning my TBR months out, like maybe like a couple of months in advance, and that's like a relatively new thing for me to do. Yeah. Usually I would mood read and I'll just pick what I feel and finish it and then do another. But since I started my channel, planning it a little bit ahead so I can work out, hey, what kind of videos I can make. I can announce read-alongs. I can tell people what I'm reading, whatever. Yeah. So I've been doing that, but I do it like a couple of months in ahead. So realistically, from sort of April to December, Lonesome Dove could possibly have a slot, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah, for sure.
Hello, Tori. Tori is here. Good to see you.
Tori.
A little fast here. I have the unpopular opinion of liking more than Live Ship. Scott, you've read Live Ship and I haven't. What do you have to say to that?
I don't know that it's a super unpopular opinion. I think I happen to enjoy Live Ship more, but that isn't a problem or a fault with Farseer. It's just that I think Live Ship is perfect. I think that I feel the same way about Tawny Man and the same way about Fitz and the Fool. And people say, well, there's no such thing as a perfect book or series. And I guess that's true, but I'm talking about for my own experience.
Yeah, you're like, it is perfect.
I wouldn't change a word. And I think that in some respects, even though I love all three books and Farseer, for me, Royal Assassin is the definite standout. And the other two I just consider very good books, but not great books.
So. Yeah, okay. That's fair enough. I mean, that's a pretty big thing to say when it comes to, like, I mean, all of the trilogies and quartets and stuff, but especially with Live Ship, they're big books. So for you to say you won't change anything, that's huge. So wow.
I mean, part of it is that she's the master and I can't write my name, but like, I have no writing ability whatsoever. But but the bigger aspect of it is that I love the character relationships and interactions that she does, and they're great in Live Ship. Like, and there is a reveal in Live Ship that ties to Farseer, that's done in the and I won't spoil what it is or what's going on. Just know they're tied together, and this reveal is my favorite reveal in fiction, and it takes the third book.
That's why I'm excited to read this, because I love obviously fantasy series, but I love things where it's like little bits interconnected and stuff. And I really like the idea that Realm of the Elderlings isn't a 16-book series. It's a different series kind of tied into the same world. I love that. And I don't know, I can't really think of that many. I mean, you probably know a bit more, because I mean, for me, I know my channel is like fantasy and classics, but I only kind of got back into reading like a couple of years ago, and I haven't read all that much as many people would think, whatever. So you might know more than me, but I haven't really seen that many other authors.
The biggest one that I would say would be Abercrombie's World. With because you got the original trilogy, and then you got the standalones, which are sort of a functional trilogy that follow some through lines, and then you've got the Age of Madness, which is my favorite part of all of First Law. I love those.
I heard it just gets insane. Like, everyone like loves the first trilogy, but then apparently Age of Madness, everyone was like, this is perfect.
It's not as everyone as you would expect. Like, if you talk to me about it, or you talk to Philip Chase about it, Age of Madness is our favorite. And I feel like I could say that because he and I have talked about Age of Madness being our favorite with each other. But I think if you ask Mike, he would tell you that the original trilogy is still by far his favorite because of the characters involved, which is a perfectly legitimate stance because the characters in it are amazing. So
all right. I haven't read any of his work, but you really like the standalones, right?
I do. The Heroes is one of my favorite books he's written. That's the middle in the standalones. I like Best Served Cold quite a bit. That's sort of his revenge tale type deal. And then Red Country is probably my least favorite book that he has written in that world, but I still like it. It's sort of his take on Westerns.
Yeah, because I was watching his interview on, I think it was the interview he did on the Brothers Gwyn channel, and I think he said standalones were kind of his way of like making a book based on like his favorite movie tropes or whatever. Yeah, one was like,
that's what he did.
Like a cowboy movie. Just gonna catch up on some stuff, and then I got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
I'll try to get 12 recommendations from 12 fans that had some chunky books so I can see it. Yeah. I've had to start doing that. My friends have given me some big books. I agree. Jane Fitz series are my favorites. I do love Live Ship and Rainwild too. I think the hate Rainwild is really overblown.
So the first Rainwild book, Dragon Keeper, is pretty clearly my least favorite of the 16.
Okay, wow.
And then Dragon Haven is a little bit better, but it's the next least favorite. But I like both of them. I don't hate them. I like them. And then the final two books I like a lot. So I really enjoyed those final two books in Rainwild. Rainwild's a weird series because she sort of had wrapped things up at the end of Tawny Man. Like, that was going to be kind of the end of Realm of the Elderlings. And then she started what's kind of a sort of YA type of series to tack onto it. And a lot of it is world building and lore reveals that unless you're a hardcore Realm of the Elderlings fan like I am, some of it just isn't going to land. But if you're into the world and you're into wanting to know more about elderlings and wanting to know more about the dragons and that kind of like. I like all that stuff. So
Right. I like
for
all that stuff.
me, it's perfectly fine. But
Yeah. All right.
it definitely is the least of the series for me by a lot. So
Okay. All right. I have heard that, which is interesting because it's like the book about dragons. It's the one that has got dragons on the cover. That is so cool. And so I really wanted to enjoy it. So we'll see if I do. But I like world building and I really like lore and all that. So I might enjoy it. Hey, Matt's here. Hello. How are you?
oh, man.
Link some dove as far as possible, my man.
Yeah, I saw Matt was crazy
Wow.
loving that book.
It's interesting. I mean, there's got to be some sort of connection between, I don't know, right? For like all these fantasy fans to be going nuts for it, there's got to be some sort of, whether it's character or world building or writing style, there's got to be some sort of connection. But I'm not sure.
I've heard sort of mixed reviews of the other books in that series, but that one seems to be universally loved. So
yeah, okay. Scott, this one's for you. Do you have any plans to read Long Price Quartet? I think you would absolutely love it based on how much you love Hob. Probably would too, Archer, but I don't know your reading taste as much. Like I said, haven't read too much fantasy on the channel just yet. But what do you think, Scott?
I do plan to read it. It's not in the immediate plans, but I would like to. Sorry about the coughing.
No, you're right.
I started the first book right after it published, so whatever that was, early 2000s or whatever. And it didn't grip me at that time, but I think I'm a lot different reader now.
Yeah.
So I definitely do want to get to it. I'm just not sure when that's going to happen. I'm going to do Dandelion Dynasty this year. So that's sort of slotted in where that's going to be.
Okay.
I'm going to be buddy reading that with my friend Joanna over at Joanna Souza. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I want to read that so bad. I'm just waiting for them to release that final book in B-size paperback. It's like they've only got it in the tallback, and for me, when I collect books, I want the trade. I want the standard B-side, but I don't know.
Outside of some very specific stuff like collecting the hardcovers for Sun Eater, I'm like 99% digital. So most of my stuff is just Kindle and audiobook.
That's a good idea. I mean, for space and stuff, like you can have like all your other stuff all over the place. I probably. Yeah, I mean, I can show you. We've only got 6 people watching, but this is what's starting to happen. So that's happening. But the thing is, it's like I've got money to buy a shelf. I've got a place to buy a shelf, but I'd rather buy more books. That's the problem. That's the biggest
understandable problem. Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, it's kind of like I don't really collect all that other many things, and so for me, it's kind of like that's like my little hobby. It's my zen. Like I wake up in the morning and I look at them. And I'm happy. I like it. So. Okay. All right. What are your favorite tropes to read? It's from Tori. Good question.
I never know how to answer most favorite and least favorite tropes because I just don't. I don't really think that way. I guess I don't ever go in like, man, I really want a hidden hero or anything. Like, it's lame, but I don't really think of it in those terms. More so for me, it's about style. And I like things like first person retrospective, which is Farseer and which is Book of the New Sun and Sun Eater and that kind of stuff. I like when we have our protagonist writing down their life for future generations to read or past generations if you're playing with the timeline like some series do. Like that's more interesting to me than specific tropes, I guess. So that's big for me. I like beautiful prose, which I never know how to define. I know it when I see it. But I'm sorry, Tori. I don't have a good answer for that one. Like a reluctant hero is cool, but I wouldn't say I need that to enjoy a story. But it's a nice to have. I guess if I was going to pick a trope I liked, reluctant hero, I guess one.
I really wanted to. I didn't want to disappoint you as well, Tori, but for me as well, like I like. There's a trope I like, and that trope is like I mentioned earlier. We were talking about Game of Thrones, and that is like the hero turned villain. Like I really like that. So I always really liked the fall of Anakin and Darth Vader and stuff because he used to be a hero and then he comes back, and so I always like that sort of stuff, especially like Daenerys in the series. So I like that. But yeah, I'm kind of more the same as well. Like I don't look for any, and I typically find it difficult to identify when it's even happening. Like I might just be reading it and that's the story. Like I don't finish the books usually like afterwards and I'm like, oh, that trope happens. Like I'm just like, oh, this thing happened. So sorry for the disappointing answer, but yeah, that's.
So since you mentioned that, Archer, let me sell you on Sun Eater real quick because I don't think you've read
I want to so bad, so go.
The tagline that Rockio came up with is Hadrian Martlow, our main character, is Anakin Skywalker if becoming Darth Vader were the right thing to do. That's what the character is.
Yo, that is awesome. That is okay. Holy smokes! I think the problem with this because those covers you've got behind you, like the artwork is oh my god.
Kieran Yanner, he's a stud. Dude's awesome.
But they are impossible to find now.
That is correct. Yeah, that's true.
Is that when they come out, if you don't get it, they're gone.
There is hope coming. So Anderida Books that does. I'll show you one of them. Yeah, they do special editions of a couple of the novellas that I've got. They're going to do a full set of all the hardcovers.
Hey,
awesome. So, and probably, I don't know for sure, but probably the shipping might be a little cheaper to Australia from the UK than it is UK to US.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but I would guess.
No, it is. America shipping from America to Australia is insane. Yeah. Like it's like it'll add like an extra $100 like Australian to your thing. UK is still pretty bad. It'll be like $30-$40, but yeah, I'm glad it's not coming from America. But
so keep an eye on that. I don't know when that's coming, but they're gonna do a full run of the set. So.
All right, I'm gonna be on top of that like ASAP because I was sold on it before. Like I wanted to read it, but now I'm like sold. As soon as I can buy those, like I'll probably start it straight away.
If you like any of Star Wars, Dune, Gladiator, any of that kind of stuff, you're gonna have a really good time.
Oh man, okay. Is it it's sci-fi, right? It's philosophical.
So it's science fantasy. So I call it science fiction for fantasy lovers. That's really what it is because there are the big science fiction ideas. It is a space opera at its core, so it is science fiction, but it's also very character based. So a lot of the stuff you would expect in fantasy, you'll see. Yeah, it's one of my favorite ongoing series. I just completed a reread of it, and I just had read it. So it's a series I will return to many times.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on that as soon as I can get my hands on those because
he's working on book 6 right now, which we finally have the title for. He wanted to keep the title a secret, but it's out now. So it's
what is it? What is it?
I can't remember now. Something gods.
It's still a secret then. It's still a secret.
No, it's not. But now that I put myself on the spot and I can't remember. Yeah, that's right. And I literally just talked to him about it earlier, and I just
it's okay.
I knew what it was.
But 31 videos got your brain foggy.
That'll be coming in about a year. So he'll wrap that up here in the next probably month or two, the writing of it. Yeah. And then we should get it sometime in spring of 2024. And then there'll be one more book beyond that, and then the series will be complete.
Okay. All right. So I've got time to catch up. All right. I'll be onto it. All right. So just before we wrap this up, I wanted to ask a couple more questions. Yeah. Specifically, one that I wanted to ask, and this is probably going to lead to like a huge conversation, which is good. Even though I was just like, we'll wrap it up. But I really wanted to hear your ideas in more depth about this philosophy video idea that you had. You said that you were into philosophy books, and philosophers themselves, and you were thinking of maybe bringing that to the channel at all, or?
I don't know. So one of my, for years, I've been thinking about doing this. So I have a philosophy bachelor's degree, and which I acquired probably when you were like 2. I don't know. It was a long time ago. It's like 2005 or it's a long time ago.
I was 4.
You were 4? Okay.
I was 4.
Excellent. Yeah. I was hoping that I was exaggerating too much. Anyway, great. So I've had this degree and I took philosophy because I was basically a failed computer science student. That's really what it was. The math and the computer science wasn't going well, and I wasn't a very dedicated student. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to get a degree, why don't I just go to these classes that I already enjoy? Because I'd taken some philosophy lectures. And so I had this dumb idea to do philosophy, and that's what I got my degree in. And I've basically done 0 with it the rest of my life. So I tell people because it's funny to me that I use my degree all the time. in conversations and this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
really, that's BS. It's not really what's going on here. So, so what I want to do, I read the first Plato dialogue, Euthyphro, in January, and haven't done a review. I did a Goodreads review of it. That's what I did with it. But like if I was gonna do something, like my buddy Jordan over at iWizard is one of the channels that I have done some collaborations and stuff with. He's also a big Sun Eater fan. He in his day job is a philosophy professor. Wow. So he and I have actually talked about me coming on his channel or whatever and talking some of the dialogues. Because I think that's what I have to get done first, is to get through some Platonic dialogues before I start, really getting into the Immanuel Kant and that kind of stuff that broke my brain. College. So, but a lot of it is just, I don't know that I would necessarily do a ton of dedicated stuff on my channel, because already I don't know if my audience is thrilled with a lot of the stuff I do. And if I start spouting off philosophy, they're going to be like, start seeing my subscriber count plummet and stuff. I don't know if that's a good idea. So I don't know.
Maybe you can start, Scott the Bald Philosopher.
I actually have a couple of philosophy channels that I follow on YouTube that are a couple of professors. And so, and I don't remember their names right now, but they're really good at breaking down.
Philip Chase, AP kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, they can do some philosophy, but no, these guys are actual doctors of the philosophy discipline that I watch their videos, and they're really good about explaining how to break down a philosophical text and how to, take notes on what you're doing and that kind of stuff. So, philosophy has always been just sort of a armchair hobby for me, nothing really else. So I don't think there's going to be anything dedicated coming on the channel, but you never know.
All right. I mean, I would really look forward to it. So if you ever make a new channel, I'd be here for it. For me, philosophy is, I haven't read all that much. I've read like Camus, I've read Myth of Sisyphus, and I read, so I've only read a couple of French stuff. And I think I was telling you, I read Michael Foucault, History of Sexuality, Volume 1, and that just broke me. I was like, what are you trying to say? Like, what are you actually saying? It was, and I've heard that maybe that could just be Foucault, because the Camus one I could understand a bit more. But Foucault I thought the whole book was like a history of sexuality, but he was talking about like coal mining and like society and like geopolitics and stuff. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I think I picked something up completely different to what I thought I was doing. But that's kind of my entrance. But I do have, I've got Epistasis, and Friedrich Nietzsche and stuff up here. So I'm really interested in the Greeks. And I know Nietzsche's not Greek, but I mean, I am interested in getting to Plato and Aristotle and stuff like
that. There's actually a fair amount of, and sorry to keep going back to it, but there's a fair amount of philosophy in Sun Eater as well. His best friend since he was a kid is this guy named Marcus Gibson, who he's had on his channel before. And the guy is a professor of philosophy. Oh, wow. So he's one of the people that is one of his advanced readers and stuff that helps.
Okay. Keep going back to this if you want to, because you're selling me like more and more each time. Man.
So there's some like Gnosticism in the books with some of the different alien races, and there's some utilitarianism at different points and these kind of things. Like I know enough to spot it, but I don't know enough to think intelligently about it. So
all right, well, I'm going to be reading that as soon as it comes out. Last question.
Mm-hmm.
Classic books that you've read, if you have read any. Do you have some faves? Maybe some things you studied in high school or anything like that?
You're gonna be so disappointed in me.
No. I just asked this question just in case. Like, if I haven't read any, like, we could talk.
My diet of classics is pretty sparse. Even like stuff that I had to read in junior high and high school, I'm pretty sure I skimmed and learned enough to get what I needed on the test. I know that I read things like Tom Sawyer and stuff. I don't.
Did you read it?
Which is terrible. Like, I have kind of a nice sort of leather bound Mark Twain on there. The closest thing on my shelf over here. So I want to get to some of this stuff at some point. The only author I can tell you and be legitimate about classics I have read is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Like I've read a lot of Sherlock Holmes stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's one I can say without lying that I've read those books.
Yeah.
And I've read some Poe, but that is more kind of here and there, a short story here and there. Like it's not a dedicated, I've gone through his catalog or anything like that.
Yeah.
So really it's more of the short story variety than actual novels and stuff. But like, I know I need to get to things like 1984 and Brave New World and Fahrenheit 451 and all this stuff. And I just continue to put that part of my reading off because I love sci-fi and fantasy and historical.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You gotta. That's why. I mean, I only ask because they're like my two genres, fantasy and classics, and that's my channel. And so most of the people I'm starting off this series with and like getting to talk to are like a lot of the fantasy-based people, and then eventually maybe I'll, because I don't really know all that many like classic channels that aren't like, you know, like.
There's a guy that I watch that's pretty good. He his name is Bookish. I think it's just called Bookish.
Okay.
And he'd be someone worth checking out. He reads a lot of classic stuff. He's good. And I like Brandon's Bookshelf. He reads a fair amount of classic stuff.
Okay. All right, I'll check him out. I also saw Liam's Lacanium. I think he reads a few classics as well. So I might get in touch with him.
Yeah, Liam reads a lot of pulp stuff. So he reads a lot of like early 20th century sci-fi fantasy, and
cool.
So he's into a lot of authors that I haven't picked up at all. And so I like following what he's doing because he reads the Fitz Leibers of the world and is probably an encyclopedia of knowledge on Robert E. Howard and all this kind of stuff.
We probably have a bunch of authors that I haven't even heard of before, but so I might talk to him. But I'd recommend, if before we go, I would probably have to recommend you because you've sold me on Sun Eater pretty hard. And this is a big challenge. It's like a big book. It's kind of hard.
Okay.
Crime and Punishment.
Yeah.
I think everyone needs to read Crime and Punishment. It's kind of like Picture, because you said before you didn't like some of the McCarthy stuff because it was just bleak and there was no, it was just depressing for whatever reason. But then you said that you like Abercrombie's work because it's bad people doing bad things and it's bleak, but there's a bit of humor to it.
A lot of humor.
That's kind of Crime and Punishment. There's not a lot. It's not a lot, and it's not like, like laugh out loud stuff, but it's like little witty, like sarcastic sort of stuff. So I would probably recommend you that. It's very dark because he sort of, I don't know if you know the general story or whatever, he thinks to be a great human, he has to like overcome, a huge boundary, and for him that's like murdering someone. So he kills his landlady, and then it's like the next 300, 400 pages is him just like slowly going insane with it and stuff. But I don't know, Russian literature, a lot of the stuff is just really funny because at least with Dostoevsky, some of the characters I've read, his characters are sort of like these like little, like introverted, weird, like little creepy look like kind of men. And they do all these weird things. Like, so there'll be stuff that you just like kind of giggle at, like a woman will be walking across the bridge and then like his character will be like do like stuff, like sort of like start freaking out and stuff, like sort of kind of slapsticky, weird stuff like that. But then it's very, very serious. And also I think if you're into philosophy and stuff, I think especially with Crime and Punishment and Dostoevsky, he's the way that for someone that's like a 19th century like writer or 20th century writer, the way he writes about the human experience and the human psyche and like trauma and actually like psychological breakdowns is insane. And Russian literature as well is translated very well. So I would recommend Crime and Punishment. I'll read Sun Eater and
sounds good. I never know what Tolstoy wrote and what Dostoevsky wrote. I always mix them up in my head. So
Tolstoy wrote War and Peace.
Okay.
And Anna Karenina, and then Dostoevsky wrote Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, The Gambler, Demons.
And you've read all these?
No. That's the thing. I've only read Crime and Punishment, and a few of other Dostoevsky's smaller works. I haven't dipped my toes into Tolstoy yet. Half the stuff you see here I haven't read. I have a problem with buying books, and I'll get to them one day.
No, I mean, it's
I'm doing War and Peace reread in not reread. I'm doing a read along. I don't know if you can see this, but from here,
Yeah, they did one on Mike's server, I think a couple months ago, and everybody seemed to pretty much enjoy it that was on the
Okay.
read. So.
Interesting. All right. I mean, it's about like 13 or 1400 pages, so I'm going to allow myself a whole month, if not 5 weeks. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I reckon we'll wrap it up there. Like I said, I'm trying to keep it to an hour because I think people sometimes don't like watching like 5-hour long videos. I know I don't, but so I'll keep it there, just nice and simple. But I'm absolutely thrilled and so happy to have finally met you, sir, Scott.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, man. I'm so happy you asked me. It was an honor to be here. So
yeah, thank you, sir. We'll do it again sometime. And thank you to everyone who's watching. This video should be available on replay and stuff, so you can, if you missed it live, you can check it out on my channel. So thank you all those who are watched on the replay and during live as well. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody.